بسم الله الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الكريم وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تبع سنته إلى يوم الدين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome again to another episode of your weekly Islamic chat show, Live by Islam. I'm your host ISMAIL Bullock, and today we have another episode to talk about the stories or the journeys of those who became Muslim. And with me today I have a brother who was born and raised, a British citizen, born and raised in the UK, and came from a Hindu background, and that is brother Abdul Maalik Tailor. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Jazakallah khair for coming on. Now, as I briefly mentioned, you were from a Hindu background. So before we go into your story, if you can tell us a bit about your religious, a bit about who you are, where you were born and brought up, and what religious background you were before.
Okay. Well, my name's Abdul Maalik Tailor. I'm in my 40s, and I embraced Islam when I was 18 years old. And my upbringing, I was a practicing Hindu, and I used to belong to a multi-faith type of group called Sai Baba. And at my entire family, I was the most practicing Hindu within this sect. And but what also happened was that I went to a Church of England school, and I was going to church as well. And I was the person who used to put up the hymn numbers.
Oh, interesting. So, what made you? What was, I suppose, the factor that kind of pushed you towards Islam? So you said you used to go to church. So yeah. Did you?
I remember when I was a young child, we would watch these children's documentaries in the primary school, and one of it was to do with different religions. Something I remember from a very young age, that the Muslims would actually worship some black box in the Middle East, and they only saw Jesus as a prophet of God, as opposed to God or the Son of God. And that's some early recollection I actually remember of Islam. But even then, when I was part of this Hindu sect, basically Sai Baba, we were actually taught about different religions and and also what they are supposed to have prophesied about Sai Baba. Sai Baba was a man god. He lived in India, and he was somebody who I'd actually went to do pilgrimage as well, and used to sing the morning devotions and songs and bhajans basically. And twice a day we'd go to his his ashram, and to where he would come out every day, and he would, there'd be a crowd of us, worshippers of him, who would be seated. The women would be on one side, men would be on another side, and he would handpick certain people who would be able to come into his mandi, his temple part, and from there he would handpick another group of people who could actually go to his living quarters. And from there, another set of people would be handpicked to go to have personal sessions in his bedroom as well. And I was with a group of people who were very fortunate to have actually be chosen. We actually got chosen 4 times to have 4 interviews. Now, within this group, it's seen as, if you have 1 sitting with such a server, it's special. 2, it'd be excellent. 3, like that. But 4, nobody had ever heard of 4. And that's why people had actually said, you guys were just chosen by Sai Baba.
So as we can see there, the whole you had the whole aspect of, you could say, like you said, he was considered to them to be like a man god. So you had that pretty much worship of man. So how did this?
I mean, the thing is, one thing I like to say is that as I was being raised, we were being raised to worship different types of idols. We were seen as different types of gods, basically, the ones. And every morning I would do my morning darshan, my morning prayers. And but for example, like the weekend, if you had decided to go clubbing, etc., sometime after Dhuhr Asr, that's when you'd wake up after your hangover and stuff like that, and that's when you do your prayers. And this was what happened was, I had actually met some Muslims as well after I came back, and we went to the same college. Unfortunately, they weren't the best of Muslims, could say, and I had they had some of the influence did actually rub off on me, the bad influence, and I decided to go to a college on the opposite side of London. And in doing so, I used to wake up in the early hours of the morning and we used to have a small Jack Russell dog. I used to take it for morning walkies. And on a parallel road where my family house was, there was a mosque. And initially, I saw these old uncles with the big bushy beards and their long skirts. Whilst the dog was doing his business, basically, I was watching these Muslims, and I'll be there saying under my breath, "What's the matter? Can't these guys like afford razors? What's with these long skirts?" And then after a while, it kind of like hit me. Hold on a minute. These guys are praying at a time they've been told to pray. They're going to worship their Allah, and here I am. I'm praying at a time I want to pray, and that really kind of like got me thinking. Let me find out about Islam.
So it's like
curiosity.
You felt like, you're making your devotion revolving around you, whereas they're making their life revolving around the Creator, which would make more sense.
Absolutely.
So you had that man God worship, and then as you mentioned, you would practice religion as it was convenient to you in the sense of your timings. So then what made you, apart from seeing them doing that, was that the first step that made you start to ask about Islam?
Well, what happened was, obviously I still have faith in this group called Sai Baba. I decided to fast as a non-Muslim. Ramadan, I done Monday to Friday. I did a couple of Saturdays, a couple of other Saturdays actually broke, and Sunday I couldn't because that was the family lunch day. And I used to say the du'as as well, but in the transliteration. In terms of the salah, I didn't do, because I thought at that time it was good to do. I didn't know it had to be done, but then again, remember, I was not a Muslim either. And what happened from there, I was fasting, and I got up in the morning. I would have zuhur, the pre-dawn meal, and then I'd go to the college on the opposite side of London, return back sometime after sunset. Family never knew I was fasting, nothing like that. And I wanted to find out about Islam now. And I went to my Pakistani friend's house, and I asked him, could I borrow your holy book? And he was like, "What do you mean, borrow your holy book?" I go, "I want to, read about it." And he made up an excuse first time. Then sadly I left, and I still went back after a few weeks. And he goes, "I'll have to have a bath." And I go, "What, just to read a book?" He goes, "Yeah, because it's very precious, it's holy, etc., etc." And I was like, "Oh boy, I never had to do that. Have a bath just to read a book." So I left a second time, disappointed. I'm thinking, why would I need to have a bath just to read a book?
I mean, obviously we know that you could say the strongest of opinions is that you should have wudu to have the Quran, but of course, you weren't asking him for the pure Arabic Quran, because how would you understand it?
Exactly.
So, just for some of the viewers that might not know this, that the scholars have said that even if it was in Arabic and you were giving a non-Muslim who's an Arab, even if it has you have half a page of the Quran and the rest is commentary like tafsir, that's not considered to be under the ruling of having to have wudu. So more so, if you have a book that's a Quran that's completely one side Arabic or one side English or completely English, then there's no issue whatsoever in giving a non-Muslim, because it's not considered to be the full Arabic one that even to the strongest opinion you have to have wudu. Even a Muslim has to wash to read it. Wash like he's going to pray, let alone a non-Muslim. So it's not in general. So a lot of Muslims don't realize that, so we don't want some of the viewers to make the same mistake. If you have non-Muslim friends who ask for a copy of the Quran and you don't think they're doing it to tear it up or burn it or something, then you actually have to, it's obligatory for you to give them, because you're stopping them from maybe becoming and reading about Islam. You actually have to give them the Quran, not the other way around.
Yeah, but in this case, this was my second time he said no, and I left disappointed. So I went back a third time, and I said to him clearly, "Okay, I'll have the bath, just tell me what to do just to get hold of the Quran." Then he comes out with another excuse. It was like, "Oh, well, it's a special book, has to be kept wrapped up on the top shelf so it doesn't become dirty, and he'll have to ask his mother." I go, "Why do you got to ask your mother just to borrow the book for?" And he goes, "Well, the mum's the most practicing person in the family." And I go, "Okay, then we'll go and ask her." And my auntie goes, No, she's got guests and it'd be rude to ask her." And I thought to myself, you know what, I don't think you want to give me the Quran. And I was thinking to myself, now looking back, this is a Muslim who doesn't want to give me the Quran. And I left. I actually got my first Quran from my Mauritian Hindu friend who I'd actually done pilgrimage with to see Sai Baba, and he actually threw the actual Quran to me. He did, I said, I just want to look at, the Quran, see what it says. And he said, no, you're going to become one of them. I go, what do you mean become one of them? Because you're going to become Muslim. I know you're going to become Muslim. I go, what makes you say that? I just don't want to find out about it. I go, Sai Baba was speaking about multi-faithism, so why can't we learn about that Islamic part, which we don't get? Because we're celebrating, Jewish festivals, Hindu festivals, Sikh festivals, Buddhist festivals as well. Why is it that we're not celebrating the Islamic parts? We're getting taught about it. And he went out his room, got a carrot bag, and he actually flung the carrot bag at me, and out came the Abdul Yusuf Ali, the Holy Quran and so on. I was like, oh great, at least I got my first Quran. But he said, you will always have Hindu blood. I go, what do you mean, always Hindu blood? Because you're born a Hindu, Hinduism is the oldest religion, and he goes that, an animal who goes like a dog that goes into a barn doesn't come out as a sheep. I go, well, thanks very much, but I don't really see myself as an animal. I'm a human being who has like intellect as well. Mm-hmm. And so that was my first chance of actually reading the Quran. Oh. And one thing I would like to say is that at that time I was quite heavily dyslexic, and one page of like of a book, which is perhaps A5 size, used to take me about 20-30 minutes. And this is Abdul Yusuf Ali back in the 1990s, whereby it was considered to be like Shakespeare style English. It was published at the IV and though and whatever. But I persevered. Allah made me like continue to keep trying to read, etc. And there were certain verses really settled in my heart in Surah Ghashiyah, what the believers would be given in paradise, etc. And I thought to myself, it started opening up my mind. What do I know about Islam? What do I know about Hinduism in terms of what people are telling me that I'm supposed to be practicing? I'm reading here like some material from the Muslims, and they say that they can trace back any of their practices, etc. And I'm thinking, okay, well, in Hinduism we have a lot of what I realised was superstition as well. Keeping two broomsticks together was considered to be bad luck. Something could happen to your mother. And when I questioned it even to my own mum, and she goes, well, that's what we've been raised upon. And I was thinking, yeah, but who said it? And so we don't say no, we're not trying to find that out. It's just like, it seems rude to ask those type of questions. So, it really did make me start thinking, what are we practicing here that is actually Hinduism that we can trace back to the original Vedics as well, and in terms of what's in the Sanskrit language. I mean, the Muslims were saying in the literature that, their language is Arabic, and it's a living language. And that's been one of the proofs, basically, of what the religion being the truth as well. It's preserved in its original language. I thought to myself then, how many people do I know who know Sanskrit? Hardly any. I didn't know any. In fact, I didn't know anyone at that time. Arabic was a living language. Who knew the whole Quran? The Muslims were saying you could be an 8-year-old in Indonesia, an 80-year-old in America. You could find somebody who knew the Quran off by heart. But did I know anyone who knew the Vedics off by heart? No one. And I thought to myself, this seems more like in Islam's favour.
Just hold you on that point. We'll just go for a quick break. Join us inshallah after this break. Assalamu alaikum and welcome back. So brothers and we obviously heard about that you were trying to get hold of the Quran, and you finally got hold of the Quran, and you started reading it, and it kind of had an effect on you and started making you think about things and looking at Islam and looking at its authenticity, and as well as looking at your own your faith at that time. But I believe also you were a training to become a policeman, or you were a police cadet in the British police force, and that also has a relation to your story, I believe.
It does, because there was a Turkish Muslim amongst like a fellow colleague, and I did start to ask them questions as well. And unfortunately, they actually said to me, my nickname in the police was Mahoney, after the famous film Police Academy. Less said about the character, and they said to me, Mahoney, I don't know much about Islam. I could go with their parents to the mosque, the Turkish mosque, and meet the Hoja. I go, what's a Hoja? It does like the Turkish word for Imam. I was like, okay, that makes sense, yeah, well, no problem. And I actually originally had the intention to go to the mosque in Ramadan to find out a bit about Islam. But the fact was that from me fasting as a non-Muslim,